Where do humans find the gas to keep going where there is no fuel? Your favorite up-and-coming boxer is challenging the featherweight champion. His journey has been one to write about in the history books. With solid fortitude and exemplary techniques, it's spectacular how he spontaneously burst onto the scene. You'd expect someone so motivated, so resolved in his objective to perform out of their goddamn mind. But then the fight goes on and on. Your greatest of all time keeps clawing at this peak he's been working towards, but it keeps lurching back, taunting him at times by tossing stones and boulders in his path. His footing gives and he falters. When staring straight at the sun that slinks behind the peak, he seems to be reminiscing. Is this all his fiery determination amounts to? This is a fight that occurs in the anime Hajime no Ippo. But before we get back to the ending of that match, let's explain this type of archetype. Characters who don't know when to quit. For anime fans, you find this most likely in shonen series. Ranging from Demon Slayer to Chainsaw Man, these protagonists throw everything they have at the enemy. They do it in the hopes that they'll gain even an inch of an advantage, enough of a step up from their opponent that they'll be able to throw them off balance. You can find these types of characters in games as well. The Far Cry series throws you into a wasteland. Like a fish out of water, the playable character needs to scramble to find resources, allies, and weapons in order to fight against the territory's tyrant. In the Hellblade series, the main character, Senua, is fighting Norse gods so that she'll be able to bring her lover back to life. The whole premise is centered around her refusing to quit in the face of death. In these examples, the world itself seems constructed to spite our character. Games like Far Cry 3 need so many things to go wrong for the situation to be what it is. It's even more worrying how the circumstances change the main character. For Hellblade, a world inspired by mythology where gods rule over the domains you find yourself in is terrifying. I can't imagine anyone born in our reality being able to manage how Senua did. It's even more obvious in scenarios like Dark Souls, a world defined by its cycles of death and rebirth. The world of Dark Souls, like you would imagine, is dark. Every time someone wanted to do good for the world, it bit back with ferocity, forcing knights to become husks and sorcerers turned into demons. Tragedy befalls everyone. However, the characters in these worlds persevere. The chosen undead in Dark Souls is destined to keep the flame of life burning for hundreds of years. Through tribulations, despair, and a lot of cheesing, they will complete their objective. In Hades, Zagreus battles through hell itself in order to escape his circumstances. Despite his fate being chained to it, he traverses hellscapes and fights demons just to seek that bit of freedom. There are settings like Hellblade where, while Senua doesn't complete her original objective, she finds something greater. It's a great example of how, when we set our sights so high, our motivations become warped and we become tunnel visioned. We can't see what's right in front of us. Characters who don't know when to quit don't make their journeys without trouble. There needs to be consideration, contemplation, and re-evaluation. Let's get back into Hajime no Ippo. This boxer, Ippo, is so determined to win this match. Even after being beaten down several times, he keeps on getting back up even while faltering. All the gas he has is spent to keep his knees from buckling and focus from fading. However, he eventually falls victim to the fatigue. It's a punch in the gut to Ippo after the fact. Still, Ippo reaches for greater heights. It doesn't deter him from continuing that journey. He faces worse defeats in the future. In certain moments, he comes to terms with his capabilities and limits. Everything doesn't serve itself on a silver platter, but as you can see by the unimaginable amount of chapters and the fact that it's still ongoing, we can see that Ippo never stops trekking on the path he's chosen. Ippo might be one of the best examples, but he isn't the only one. An eerily similar character to Ippo is Denji from Chainsaw Man. Vague spoilers for part 1 and the beginning of part 2, so skip to this time if you want to avoid those. After facing the horrors of his world in part 1, Denji realizes the promise that he's made to Pochita in the beginning of the series. He was going to seek the life that he wanted. At this point, it was going to high school and taking care of his new little sister, Nayuta. However, throughout Throughout the former half of part 2, Denji is confused. Just as he was torn apart by his desire for love and belonging during part 1, his desired paths of life between being Chainsaw Man and being Denji were stretching him thin. He obviously cares about Naita, but there's a sense of pride he holds for his heroic ego as Chainsaw Man. Just as love is a traumatic experience for him, his identity as a person is polarizing and caused by his own doing. Chainsaw Man displays this sense of contemplation and panic perfectly, but a series that crushes your hope entirely is Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, spoilers for the second season, so skip here if you want to avoid those. Throughout his time training to be a sorcerer, Yuji holds this ideal that he wants to save as many people as he can before he is sentenced to execution. It's something that terrorizes him as his weakness proves again and again to be his bane. At points, he feels powerless in not being able to protect his friends. This all crashes down on him during the Shibuya incident. Thrown into a conflict where titans of the sorcerer world torment innocents, Yuji finds himself mourning for everyone caught in the crossfire while he fails to make do on his promises. After the tragedy that left a hole through Shibuya, Yuji breaks down horribly. It's from here that he needs to reconsider what it is that he is fighting for. After losing allies and having to pick himself back up with the help of his remaining friends, Yuji finds a new purpose. While he can't protect everyone, he acknowledges that this everlasting war between sorcerers and curses is more than a hero's journey. Life often ends with tragedies, not miracles. Yuji remains resolved to do what he can, eliminating curses while he is able to. From Jujutsu Kaisen, the Chainsaw Man, we can view the relapses and realization of people when they need to keep fighting, even without much left to give in the moment. With the warping of motivations, we sometimes forget about our original goals. In the shifts of our goals, we discover new purposes in different circumstances. However, there are times when we have to consider the roots of our passion. This may be a weird example, but Hara Urara is a great example of a character who doesn't know when to quit. Now, stay with me for a second. When you race with any of the horse girls in Uma Musume, they're all passionate about racing. Nearly all of them care about coming first in these competitions. If they fail to meet their goal, motivation can wane in the face of failure. Their ears droop to show their disappointment. Hara Urara contrasts this scenario. For a horse who hasn't won at all, Hara Urara's depiction in Uma Musume is just a girl who wants the race. She wants to give it her all despite her inability to be in the running for the best of all time. When she fails to place high in the competition, she still waves her hands in excitement. Her joy for racing doesn't disappear in the face of failure. Instead, it only grows when she does manage to place. She is famously known in canon to have not won any races. However, as the coach, it is possible to train her to be the best she can be. With the global release of the game, many thought it wouldn't be possible to win the major race that defines the career. Without the proper resources and abilities to push her to her limits, many people thought there wasn't any hope for reaching for those heights. However, just recently, a user managed to complete this race, coming in first. It's a milestone in the global release of the game. People were celebrating for this horse girl who didn't bow to the circumstances she found herself in. In fact, that very passion inspired people to keep cheering for her. Personally, it's a cultural victory in the community to see such a spectacular display of effort from the players and the character herself. I may sound parasocial, and to be honest, I probably am, but this event showcases why the perseverance to never quit doesn't only lie in these protagonists. We all hold the ability to keep going despite the obstacles in our way. It is in our collective consciousness as humans. Our ability to break beyond barriers, whether alone or together, is what defined our evolution as a species. In the game Frostpunk, civilization has crumbled due to the apocalyptic state that the world has found itself in. Secluded in cities powered by furnaces, the cold is staved off only by the tenacity that these communities hold. It is a group effort, but depending on the leadership, tides could turn and collide with one another. Collective perseverance is possible, but only if people believe in its existence. There's a pessimistic outlook in the world right now where people feel they're at the mercy of each other. Passivity is what leads to stagnation. Stagnation is what kills growth. Without growth, there is no change. In the grand scope of things, our collective experience is more miserable as long as we believe in the worst case scenario. Think of it like a self-fulfilling prophecy. This can be seen in the phenomena aura that the game Journey evoked. It's an adventurous expedition across deserts and caverns and mountains. The special thing about this project was that players could periodically work with one another. A nomad would meet you along the dunes where they would lead the new players towards the vague objective. At this point, it might not be clear to everyone where this story is heading. Eventually, you will reach a snowy mountain where many people have met their end. While you may have the resolve, the environment is harsh. So harsh that it freezes you over in no time. However, in a gust of motivation, your willpower exceeds the factors that plot against you. This whole journey, as cliche as it may sound, was possible due to your own persistence, but also because of the ones who escorted you along the way. Of course, this system only works if, as a community, we all collectively agree that we would help one another. Since its launch, people would assist each other along their journeys. To this day, you can find other players who will guide you towards the right path. It's a venture that has lasted over a decade of its lifespan. Something like this is what happens when our collective perseverance finds its place within a group of people. It has connected people across the world in ways we've never seen before. So, what's the secret? In Hajime no Ippo, the underdog continues to fight against the odds that want to defy him. In Dark Souls, the undead continue to light the fire of life, allowing the world to live on. Even in Uma Musume, when inspired by perseverance incarnate, players have gathered together to celebrate their victories as a community. Where does all of this latent energy come from? Through lessons in our lives and history, people have been able to adapt and bend the environment in order to work towards their own goals. Look at when people started to cultivate as opposed to solely hunting. In some of the bleakest scenarios, people have looked towards brighter days rather than wishing for them. Girls' Last Tour showcased a pair of girls traveling through collapsed society and barren streets just to survive and gather resources. Going with the ebb and flow was their protocol. In Steins Gate, Okabe battles time, fate, and inevitability itself in order to arrive at a future that is best for everyone. It's in characters themselves, but in some of the greatest examples, such as Spider-Man being lifted across the train, collective perseverance is strong in humans. So don't let the harsh days get the best of you. We'll all survive and get through it. When the world seems depraved, remember that people are able to get through the worst of it, and that includes you. I remember a sentiment that helped me in the past. Look forward to tomorrow, because it always comes.